for cash flow investors. And we do these every single week on Mondays, Wednesdays, and on Fridays. So as we get started, we have a bunch of questions, and a couple of them have a couple of calculations. And I thought one of them is a fun one, which is about a auction that is coming up, and what should they be bidding. So this is generally, we reserve it for people from Platinum Mastery, but I thought this would be something fun to do. So we're going to go through the numbers on this particular property for the auction bid price that is coming up this week. And it's one of the outer counties that this property is coming up. So how would I do the numbers on this property? So we'll go through that here in a minute. But having said that, please remember that we're 30 days out, literally, from the next 3-day event, which is February 16th, 17th, and 18th, or 17th, 18th, 19th, something like that. You go to andrewholmesevents.com and make sure you register. So let's get started with the question number one. So the question number one is, I'm buying a property, and I'm going to be putting down 30% to buy the property. Because they're buying this particular property with basically a some sort of a hard money. I don't know why the hard money lender is making them put up 30%, but it should be 20 maximum. But regardless, and they're putting down 30%, so it's going to end up being about $45,000 plus. Of the they're going to have to do the rehab on this property, so they're going to come up with another $40,000 in rehab, and $40,000 they're going to get from the lender. So the scenario is that this particular investor is coming up with $45,000 out of pocket to be able to buy a property, and then they're going to end up putting another $40,000. So the property that they're buying is somewhere around, I think somewhere around 180 or so, something like that, 180 to, and on the back end, they're going to end up doing another 80 in work. So their question is, oh my God, we're going to have 45 plus 40. We're going to almost have about $85,000 invested in the property. What do we do? How do we get that property? How do we get that money out? So the saving grace on this property is this, right? I'll tell you the good thing, and then we'll talk about the bad thing, right? Obviously, we know what the bad thing is, that you have $85,000 stuck in the property, and this investor, unfortunately, had to pass on another flip they had found. They had found 2 good properties, and I wish they had reached out earlier, because we could have certainly helped them solve this situation. But regardless, so at this point, they're basically going to have $85,000 invested in the property, and with purchase and with rehab. So they're buying the property in their personal name. So number one, they should not be buying the property in their personal name, because their reason for buying the property in their personal name was that they could have refinanced it and they would get a little bit interest rate, which is a little bit better. So the way I look at it is that you get a 6% interest rate if you buy it in your personal name, wait for 12 months, and then do a refinance. So you have $85,000 stuck in the property for 12 months, which makes absolutely no sense, because it seems like this person is good at doing off-market and finding the properties. So number one, even if you buy the property on the front end in your personal name, because it looks like you're about ready to close, you need to refinance the property with a commercial loan on the back end, so that you put it in an LLC and then refinance it right away. You'll be able to get your $85,000 out really, really quickly. Now, the good part about this property is that it is an excellent, excellent property. It's a phenomenally good property. So the property is a 2-unit, and it is located in a basically pocket, which is called Galewood. So Galewood is a part of Chicago, which is the furthest most kind of west pocket coming into Oak Park, right? It's just a little bit north of Oak Park, sandwiched between Oak Park and between Elmwood Park. So that's where they're buying a property. And this particular property happens to be a 2-unit property. And right now, they have the basement being used as a rental. So it actually has a, it is a conforming use, and it can be basically used as a 3-unit building. So that would be my suggestion to them, that if you have a 3-unit building, and watch how the numbers work out on this one, you're going to get for sure, at least $2,400 on your top unit. On your middle unit, I think you're going to get 2,300, if not more, but for sure 2,400 and 2,300. And I believe, this is just me, I think that you'll get at least $1,600 because the top unit is a 3-bedroom, middle unit is a 3-bedroom, and the bottom unit is going to be a 2-bedroom. Because there's room to have 2-bedroom, you're going to have to cut a window out. Now, if you make it a 3-bedroom, your expense structure in this case is not going to be $45,000. It's going to be $60,000, right? It's going to cost you a little bit more, if not $65,000. Even if you spend $65,000 in this particular property, it is well worth it. Go ahead and spend the money. If you have to borrow an extra $15,000 is okay, or you put it on your credit card, that's perfectly fine in this particular scenario, because what happens is this: your back end value in this case is going to come in super, super, super high, right? Minimum, you're going to get a back end value on this particular property close to somewhere around $450,000, if not more. So if I was you, I would go ahead and spend the money, do that. So I did some numbers for you, and I wanted to just kind of go through the numbers. So 2,400 plus 2,300 plus a minimum of 1,600. I think I'm being conservative, but I'm pretty sure that that will hold. $6,300 is your cash flow on this particular property. And I know a couple of your friends and people are telling you that you could sell the property, but you should not. Absolutely do not. Please, for God's sake, do not sell this particular property. This property would be something that you should not be selling. So just something to think about. Okay, I was doing the numbers. All right, so let's look at what the cash flow would be the way I'm suggesting it and the way you were thinking about doing it, right? So let's say you're in this deal for 180 plus 65. So you're going to be in this deal somewhere around 245 plus your carrying costs. So I'm going to put another $15,000 worth of carrying cost. So 260, 270. So let's just say 270. So if you put a loan on this property for $270,000, number one, you're going to be able to get every penny of your money out if you do it my way. If you do it your way, you're going to have to wait 12 months and your money is going to get stuck. So please don't do it that way. But let's just do it the way I'm suggesting. And if you did it your way, 6.2, and insurance is $2,400 on the building. 400 and taxes 3,500. Okay, so here's why I'm suggesting what I'm suggesting. Doing it your way, your payments are going to be $2,145, right? Doing the way you want to do it. The way I'm suggesting it, your payments are going to be 7.3. Your payments are going to be $2,342. So your way of doing it and my way of doing it, there is about a $200 difference. Actually, exactly $200 difference, about 197. So let's just make it 200, right? My way, it's going to be a commercial loan. You'll get everything out. It'll be in an LLC, so it's separated from you. There's no reason to own this property in your personal name. It doesn't make any sense. You're getting a 30-year loan, and you have all the flexibility in the world. Now, here's the beauty of this property, which I want to congratulate you that you've done a superb job on this, that the rent collected on this is going to be $6,300. Your payments on this are going to be $2,342. So every single month, right? I don't know if you can see this or not. Every single month, you're going to make close to about $3,500 on the property, even with you paying for trash pickup, even with you paying water, even with you paying for heat, because it's boiler heat. You're going to do extremely well. Please, for God's sake, do not flip this property, right? This property is an absolute money maker, because think about it, right? You're getting $3,500. Now, I'm not even adding laundry income, right? You should have 2 units in the back part of it, because this is a building that I have another building exactly like the one you have. So I know there is a room over there because we have an exact building in Brookfield like the one you have. So make sure you put 2 washers, 2 dryers over there, and you'll collect a ton of revenue there. I'm not even taking that revenue, just as is. Think about this, right? $3,500 a month minimum times 12. You're going to make $42,000. $42,000 for one property, right? So please, for God's sake, use your brain. Do not sell this property, even if you're going to make 200 grand, right? Please don't sell it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to tell you how to be able to refinance more money out. You can probably refinance on this property. You could refinance up to, refinance up to 337. What that means is if you're in the deal for 270 minus this, so you'll be able to refinance an extra 67,000 out, right? I would rather you refinance a little bit more money out, take that money, redeploy it into more properties, but please do not sell this property. So I'm excited that you reached out with this particular question. And so this is a phenomenal deal. So congratulations. Next question was, how do I invest with very minimum money out of pocket? And do we need a down payment? If so, how much? You don't, guys, listen, you don't need down payment in real estate, right? If you're buying properties with equity, if you're buying, like this person is buying a property with 25, 30% equity, actually way more than 25, 30% equity. So this is a property that could be funded 100%, no questions asked. If they were in Mastery, we would have funded this for them with a private money loan. It would not be an issue. But if this person knew how to present themselves, and that's where they're learning, so I'm at least happy that they found a good property. If they knew how to basically present themselves well to other investors, there's plenty of investors that will pay them, that will basically give them private money. It's just that this person doesn't have the contacts and neither the ability right now to be able to make a good case for themselves. But you don't need a down payment on these properties. So there's a couple of different ways. How do you do it? So I'll give you the first way of doing it, right? How I did it. So 3 different ways. Number 1, the way I did it was I took money from a home equity loan. At the time, it was $20,000 on a townhouse I used to live in. I borrowed the money from Chase and I did my first flip with that $20,000. I borrowed another $20,000 from another friend. So now I had $40,000 and I put that amount of money down. That was one way of doing it. Number 2 way of doing it is you could do some sort of a partnership with somebody to get the down payment and give them a piece of the action. I would not give them 50% of the whole thing. I would give them a small piece, like something like, say, 25% of the deal or 30% of the deal. Don't just give them the 50% off the bat, because you found the property, you're getting the rehab done, you're doing all the work. So then why would you give them 50%? That would not make any sense. The third way of doing it is I would pitch your deal to private money lenders, right? People who are around you, people, maybe family members, friends. If you show up at the RIA meetings, talk to other people, right? This is how you find private money lenders. So, hey, I'm doing a deal and I'm looking for possibly people that can participate in it. Don't say partner in it. Say participate in it. And they're like, well, what do you mean by that? Well, maybe I can go show you the property. Always show the property to people that you want them involved. Why? Because if you pitch them just based on a piece of paper and you don't yet have the credibility, you don't have the kind of the presence, you don't have the rapport with them, now there's a possibility of them saying no. But if you show them the property and you have a good deal, which looks like that in certain cases you may have a great deal, they will get excited naturally as a part of walking through the property. And now you can have them basically come up with the money. The way we do it today in Mastery is we borrow the money, private money, out of Mastery for the purchase as well as for the rehab, then get the rehab done, get the purchase done, get the rehab done, and then we refinance it out, or you flip it and make a profit with it. That's how people in Mastery generally do these properties. That's how they're able to basically make so much profit. So that's one way of going about it, right? Is that if you have access to private money. If you go partner with somebody, they can come up with the 10-15%. You can use their money, put a hard money loan for the rest, and then do it that way. So hopefully that helps. If you have any other questions, let us know. But the other question this person also asked was, well, what do I do with the down payment? So down payment, it depends. Are you doing a flip? Are you doing a rental property? If you're doing a flip, then you basically use the down payment in a partnership with somebody and give them a piece. If you're doing a rental, give them a partnership on the front end of the deal, meaning I'm going to buy the property. So I'll give you an example. The way I used to do it was I would basically give the person a return on the money, meaning I'm like, hey, listen, if you let me borrow at one time, right? I needed to borrow 20, 30,000 bucks because I was doing through 2, 3 other transactions. I didn't have the 20, 30,000 I needed. So I would basically say, hey, what if I could give you a 12, 14%, 15% on your money? They're like, how can you do that? I'm like, well, I'm going to buy this property. I'm going to rehab it. And then when I refinance it, I will give you a return. So, and I used to give them a return at that time, basically at the time of refi. I'm like, listen, it's going to probably take me 4 months to buy it, rehab it, and refinance it. At the time of refinance, I'll pay you the money back. I'm going to give you 2 points on the money, and I'll give you 1% a month or whatever. So, and then I'll redo that again with you so that you'll be able to, for the year, get a 16, 18% yield on your money. And people love that because they're like, you're tied to the property. I'm going to improve the property, and then I'm going to do that, and you'll get to learn as a process. It'll help me, and we can both grow together. So it has to be a win-win scenario. You'll probably pay a little bit more to them, but then they get to participate. They get to watch the process, how you do the rehab, what do you do, and both people are learning, and you'll build really long-term relationships if you treat that correctly. So another way of doing it. What's the quickest way to build a portfolio as a new investor? That was the next question. So the quickest way to build a portfolio as a new investor is, number one, this. Figure out what do you want to achieve. Meaning, let's just make it simple, right? We always look at, number one, what is the profile of a customer? Meaning, where are you starting out? You have money, you don't have money. You have credit, you don't have credit, or you have credit in the middle, right? Then we figure out, okay, what is the location that you live in? Meaning, what part of town? You live in east, west, north, south suburbs. Where do you live? And then within a 30-mile radius, within a 30 to 45-minute driving distance of your house, right? What are the B and the C pockets that we can identify? That's the first place that we start, is what is the B and C pockets you can identify. We're going to make a list of it. That's called area selection. Then based on the areas that you identify, let's say you identify 20 areas within a 30-mile radius. Now we're going to take those 30 areas and we're going to narrow it down to 5. Why 5? Because if you just say, oh, I'm going to look for a property in Hillside, or I'm going to look for a property just in Westchester, what you're doing is you're limiting yourself too much, and you're going to have a hard time. Not saying you can't find a property, but you're going to have a hard time. So the reason we pick is 5 is it gives you a large enough pocket where you can look at a lot of properties. So that's the reason why we identify the 5 different areas. So you have a nice mix, and there's enough area geographically. There's enough deals in that area where you can look at those types of properties. So that's how I do it, right? That I'll identify an area. Now, once you become good at that, and once you become good, now you can open up to a lot more pockets, lot more areas. Like for me, around the Chicago suburbs, we look at about 60 to 65 areas at any given time. Now, does that mean we're not going to buy something outside of it? That's not what it means, but those are the areas we would rather buy it, right? So that's the first thing. So first thing is profile of investor, where are you coming from? Number 2 is you're going to do what we call is area selection. Right? Then number 3, what you're going to think about is, okay, if I'm going to build a portfolio, what is the type of a location I want? Is it a B location? Is it a C location? And then what is the tenant mix that I'm going to have in that particular location? So what it does is there's a systematic approach to building a portfolio. The reason why in Mastery people build a portfolio at such a big at a fast pace. Number one reason behind that is the private access to private money, and the number two reason is that there's a method to that madness. They're not just looking for any property that comes up, because if you take that approach of any property that comes up, it hits your, you set it up in Redfin, it hits your phone, it shows up on your phone, you're going to get extremely frustrated and you're going to have a very hard time. There needs to be some sort of a method to the madness, right? There needs to be a system that you follow every single time to look at properties. Then what you're going to do is the next step. So you did the profile, you did the area selection, you understood what is the tenant mix in that particular area, what is the average taxes in that area, what is the average pricing in that area, and then what are the average cash flows I'm going to hit. Now it becomes easy for you to figure out, okay, how am I going to work my numbers backwards? So what I mean by that is this, that if in a property, like generally when I'm buying a single family house, I want to make about $500 minimum on after all expenses, or $700 to $800 on a little bit bigger property. So in A areas, I want to make about $700 to $800 minimum on a little bit bigger property, on a little bit more expensive property, right? So that's kind of the two criteria I use. And then I back into the numbers that if this is the profit that I want, then based on the rehab, based on the location, what do I have to pay for the property? So the seller may be asking whatever they may be asking, but I have to decide, hey, this is the max that I can pay for the property. Then the next question becomes is, okay, how am I going to buy this property if I want to scale up quickly? Well, two ways of buying it. You basically go call National RE Funding, or go on the website, get a proof of funds, right? You have to just put your basic information. Nobody's pulling your credit. But first thing what Jesse will do is issue you a letter up to $150,000 that he'll issue you, assuming that you fill out the information to its completeness. I would call him or I would email him back, and then I would say, hey, listen, Jesse, 150 right now is not enough. I need basically a approval up to 250. That's what I would do, right? Get an approval up to 250. Now, he may ask you, hey, how much savings do you have? Do you have any money? If you don't, it's okay. You can always partner for that, right? You can have a partner that puts up the money. And the good part is that we have a bunch of different banks behind it. And some of them, they don't even care where the money is coming from, meaning they don't ask for what is called verification of funds, meaning where is the money coming from. Some of them have no criteria for that. As long as you can bring the money to the down payment at the time of closing, you're good to go. Right? So that's how I would approach that. Now, if you have access to private money, this process becomes much, much, much easier for you. The next thing is you want to open one LLC. If you're going to buy a property in Illinois, open just one LLC. Costs a couple $100. That's all it costs, right? And then you're going to start buying properties in that LLC. If you want to scale up, you're going to do a commercial loan on the back end to refinance the property. And then you're going to make sure when you buy the property, you're going to use three metrics, which we always use. Number one is what is the cash flow on the property, right? Number two, so that needs to be about 400 to about 500. Somewhere in that ballpark is what your cash flow should be after your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, any associated costs with that property. The next thing is, what is the equity? This is the most important thing that people seem to forget. What is the equity in the property? So what that means is if I'm buying a house for $100,000, let's say, and I'm going to do $30,000 in work to it, I'm in the deal for $130,000. I may have some other expenses, let's say $140,000. Now, does the property appraise for $200,000? Right? That's your equity position in the property. So if your property appraises for $200,000, they're going to give you 75%, 70% generally, but you can go up to 75%. So I would run all my numbers to be conservative based on a 70% formula. So 200,000 back-end value, then that means I can borrow $140,000. So as long as your numbers are within that, now you can scale at a very, very rapid pace. Now, if you learn how to basically raise capital with private money on the front end of it, now you're really taking that whole thing to the next level. The reason in Mastery we provide the private money from the group is because that makes people's lives a lot easier, because I know how tough a time I had when I did not have the confidence. So that's kind of how that is done. How do I find a real estate agent that can help me with investing? Guys, this is a tough question, right? And the reason I say this is a tough question is, so the first of all, what I would do is this, that real estate agents in general are trained how to do retail sales in general. Now, there's some agents that are really good, but real estate agents, you have to really tell them what you're specifically looking for, right? So the only instruction I would give to a real estate agent, the way I would do it is this. Let's say you're in the suburbs, right, of Chicago. I would look up who are the agents that handle a lot of the REO properties. Who are the agents that handle a lot of the Fannie Mae products, the HUD properties, those type of properties, generally that show up distress. You can pull that list from the MLS. You can get a good agent to help you with it, and they can pull that list. That's not that difficult to do, right? It's a keyword search function that you can add to your MLS search and pull it. What you're going to find is certain agents that handle a lot of volume. I would basically try to reach their office and figure out who they are. And I would just basically point blank say, hey, I'm a real estate investor. I'm looking for properties. Noticed you do a lot of business, right? Or another way of doing it is, hey, XYZ, or let's say Ryan, you're calling, hey, Ryan, this is Andrew, and you do a lot of business. That's how I would say it immediately. You do a lot of business. That's what I would open with, because most agents are like, what the hell do you want? Right? Because this is the investor who has no clue what they're doing. They're going to take up my time, buy nothing, and waste my money, right? Waste my time, because time for agents is money. So I would lead with that, hey, everybody feels good when you stroke their ego. And you can be genuine about it. I'm not saying lie to them, but you can be genuine. Hey, man, you do a lot of business, and I would love to be able to buy some of your listings. What you're doing is you're building rapport. You're building you're starting that process. And then I would do a follow-up every 2 or 3 weeks. Doesn't matter if they don't have a property, right? But you want to be there in their kind of top of their mind, right? That is just, and doesn't require you to spend a penny, right? It just requires making a phone call and send a text. Say, hey, Ryan talked with you the other day. This is Andrew, right? Send a little picture of yours. And so that they know, associate the face with who this person is. Now it's going to pop up on their cell phone, and now they know. And I would stay in touch with them. That's the first place that I would start, is start identifying those agents. Now, second thing is that in every pocket of town, right? Let's just say you're out in Plainfield, or you're out in Buffalo Grove, there are some agents that do a volume of listings, right? They handle a lot of properties. Generally, agents who have been in business for a very long time, right? They will have deals that pop up from time to time. They don't plan on it, but they're more aware of those types of properties. I would create relationships, again, the same way with them, that, hey, I buy here, I'm willing to do flips, I'm willing to do rentals, right? And make sure that you have your proof of funds ready to go, because some of them may go, hey, well, I get a lot of calls, a lot of investors basically put offers on my properties, right? So I would say, hey, I'm happy to send you proof of funds. I'm happy to, what you want to do is make their life easy. Before they have to ask a question, you want to have the answer for them, so they're like, oh my God, this investor knows how they buy, they know where they buy, they think I'm good. That makes the agent feel good. And then secondly, that they have provided me proof of funds already, so that they know you are somebody who is credible, who are somebody they want to do business with. Next, I would get on all the wholesalers list that are people doing wholesales in Chicago, right? Some of them are agents, some of them are just individuals doing wholesales. There's a bunch of Facebook groups, there's a bunch of groups, and I would get on there. Now, I wouldn't just trust what they say, but it's another way for you to start adding to it. Next thing, what I would do is, rather than trying to just look for a agent to help you, you can give them the criteria that, hey, in this pocket of town, like give an example. Let's just say you're looking for properties in the south suburbs, for example. I would take 55 as my guideline on the north side. I would go west, however far west you want to go, right? And then I would basically mark that, and I would say, hey, can you set up an MLS search for me? Give me everything that's 200 or below, or 220 or below. Now, if I'm going to look in the north suburbs where I know the price range is high, let's just say I'm looking at the pocket which is 90 and north, right? Like that particular pocket, all the A properties that I personally buy, I want all of them in the north suburbs. So I have 90 as my guideline on the south side for that particular search. And then everything in that pocket, I'm going to set up a search. Give me 350 or below. And I'm just going to go through each one of the properties once I've done the first search. Now, the only ones that I'm going to see are going to be only the ones that basically are new or price changes or that are coming back on the market, reactivated. Those are the only ones I'm going to see. And I'm always going to start with the lowest price and go towards the high price, right? Or you can start at the high price if you really know the area, because below 350, you're not going to find that many properties, right? That's going to be tough, especially in the northern suburbs, because it's an expensive area. So the way I have it is I have different searches. I have searches up north of 90. I have a search 90 all the way to 294. And then I have 294 down to 55, 55 down, right? Because I'm looking in a lot of areas. So I have sectioned off searches. So whenever I run a report or I run a search, boom, I'm like, I know I'm looking north of 90 right now. I know I'm looking here. I know I'm looking there. It helps me organize the whole thing in a way that I can quickly, without spending a lot of time, find properties at a very high pace. But depending on the pocket of town you're looking in, you got to put a filter that I want single families only. I want bedrooms. I don't care. Doesn't matter if it's a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, because 1-bedroom properties, generally they're 2 or 3-bedroom property. Somebody took out a wall. Generally, that's going to be the case. Not always, because you're not going to buy a property just that's a 1-bedroom. You're going to make it a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom at least, right? So that's how you do that. And on the back end, you're going to put a stop price that, okay, I'm willing to go up to 350. I'm going to go up to 310. So that's how I would look at that. And that's how I would have the agent set up a listing for you. And here's something to remember, guys, that if an agent is working their butt off, right, to help you, then please, if they send you a property, be loyal to them. Give them the business, because they're putting in the time and effort. Now, if you find the property on Redfin, you find the property on Zillow, that's how you should set up your searches in Redfin and or Zillow, right? We use Redfin, you may use Zillow, but I believe that's a better tool than even Realtor.com, right? If you're not an agent. So just something to think about. But if an agent is sending you the properties, make sure you're loyal to them. Don't go around them and go directly to the listing agent. It's not fair. Now, if you find the property yourself, it's free game. I would always try to go to the listing agent, but that's my take on it. Is it common for the seller's agent to ask which title company I'm closing with? Generally, they don't, because generally the seller is the one that's paying for title. But if they ask, just say Fidelity Title, right? Just say Fidelity Title. Call Desiree Wilson at Fidelity Title. They'll be happy to help you. There's a huge discount. Say, hey, I heard about Andrew talk about it, and I want the discount. You can work with Gina. Gina's office will be happy. They'll give you a nice 30, 35, 40% discount on your title cost, because that's a big chunk of the change. Having said that, I think I am a little bit over. So on Wednesday, I will address this property, which is the auction property. I think this is a great property to look at the numbers. Maybe we'll put the numbers on the screen, so that'll be easier for everybody to understand, make sense of, and it'll be good numbers, because this property is coming up later this week. Obviously, if I'm discussing Wednesday, it's coming up on Thursday or Friday. One of the outer suburbs, I don't want to name the town or give you the address, because that wouldn't be fair. I can't disclose that. But we're really hoping that this person that reached out about this auction property gets this particular property, and because he happens to be from Mastery. So we're hoping he's from Platinum Mastery, and we're definitely going to try. But I think the analysis of this particular property numbers wise, it will be something that you'll find of interest. Having said that, again, remember, make sure that you register for the 3-day conference, which is coming up in February. AndrewHolmesEvents.com is the website. The VIP tickets are, I think we have maybe 25 or 30 left, but rest of them are all sold out already. So VIP is basically where you get lunch. You get to meet with all the panelists, guests. You get to sit down, network with them, grab all the private money lenders. That's what that VIP ticket is for. So if you haven't registered, AndrewHolmesEvents.com. Make sure you register. If you have a spouse, friend you're bringing, make sure you let us know. That way we can give them a complimentary ticket. Having said that, the first property that I had brought up, please, again, do not sell that property, right? If you need help, I'm happy to help. I know you're not from Mastery, but I don't want you to see you sell that property, because it's just too good a property to keep for cash flow. So God bless. Having said that, we'll wrap up for today. Talk to you on Wednesday.